Hello, welcome to the second edition of the Miracle Central Light Up series. My name is Quinton Clay, and I'm excited to share with you all again. Let me first say, last week, the first edition of this Light Up series was so well received. I am elated. We are so surprised and excited by the words of affirmation, the encouragement, and just the receptiveness and the circulation of that episode. Within actually a little under a week, there were more than 2,000 views, and the volume of comments and texts and just the encouragement that came in with people just saying that this was helpful. These were 10 minutes of inspiration that they had been looking for, and a digestible bite. And that's exactly the kind of thing that we were looking for. So with that kind of feedback, we're just going to continue to keep it going. So this would be the second edition of the Light Up series. Today, I'm going to talk about Solomon. And if I were to frame this in a caption or a theme, I would call this particular edition Mining Your Mind. So if you go to First Chronicles, the 28th chapter, right around the 9th verse, there is a account of Solomon and the transition between King David and him announcing and essentially crowning Solomon as his successor, the new king of Israel and Judah. Now, if you're like me, there's a lot on your mind right now. You have certainly a crisis and conditions in the world around us that we spoke about in the first episode that are just, they're not going away anytime soon. And it's a lot. It takes a lot to just get through the days and the weeks, and we're trying to survive. We're trying to thrive. We're trying to lead our families and our loved ones and our young ones, and work and teach and tutor and all sorts of things. And the present is a lot. It's certainly a weight and a battle, and it takes us to be sharp and poised and strong in our minds. But concurrently, we're still dealing with things in our past that may present themselves and surface on occasion, things that we're connected to through work and family, and our physical and mental conditions, and our emotional well-being may be triggered by things in the past. And that's certainly something that every human being can relate to. And then we have the future. We have the things we're hopeful for. We have maybe some anxieties and fears of things that we imagine could surface and come and lay ahead of us. But I'll tell you, regardless of the past, the present, and the future, God has a peace. God has a plan of success. God has a path for each and every one of us. But we have to mine our mind. So in this passage of scripture, Solomon, young Solomon, is succeeding his father, King David. David announces to all that Solomon will be his successor. And Solomon has older brothers, so this is no small thing. You would think this is the highlight of Solomon's life. We've all had moments where we should be excited. We all have moments where good things are happening to us, but because we are stretched and straddling the past, the present, and the future, we might find ourselves almost checked out, numb, a little uneven in our response because it's more than what meets the eye. Solomon being king would certainly be a lifetime achievement. However, Solomon is dealing with a very murky family history and a past that I imagine at the time of this transition really bubbled up to the surface. Just in brief account, Solomon's father David and his mother Bathsheba got together under the craziest circumstances. And when I say crazy, I mean literally King David had Bathsheba's husband Uriah assassinated and killed so she could be his. That kind of crazy. That's Solomon's mother and Solomon's father. I'm talking about crazy on the level of rape and incest between his siblings. One of his siblings trying to override his father. We know the story of Absalom. And then he has another older brother who is falsely claiming the crown, even in Solomon's presence. And then to stack on top of all of that, David, God gave a vision and a dream and a desire, a spirit inspired desire to build God a temple with very, very detailed plans. But God told David he wouldn't be able to build the temple. Solomon would be the one to build the temple. Solomon has these instant expectations bestowed upon him in addition to the crown. David is a hero. He is a phenomenal figure. He was a warrior. He was chosen among his brothers, being the younger brother, being the miracle among them as it relates to the way that he was selected, being embattled and entwined in a war with the current King Saul, just a shepherd boy being such a threat and having such a history with the king before he took the throne. And Solomon has to live up to King David, Israel's champion. Solomon has to think about his own legacy. What would be his future as king? What would be his defining moments? Would he be defined by the sins of his father and the crazy circumstances of his family and his environment? Would he be defined by God being with him as he was with the generation before? That past, that present, that future, it was all on his mind. Interesting enough, Solomon, after David announces him being king, offers God a very special offering and sacrifice. And in his sleep, God visits Solomon and asks him, "What would you have me give you?" "I would give you anything you ask." God presented Solomon, young Solomon, with a blank check. Solomon could have asked for many things. He could have asked for peace in his family, peace in the kingdom. He could have asked for wealth and gold to secure the future of his kingdom. He could have asked for a number of things. But you know what Solomon asked for? He asked God for wisdom. Of all things, he asked God for wisdom. And this is what inspired me to think about mining our mind. Sometimes we are stretched between the concept of faith and the concept of intellect, the concept of our mind, the concept of the ability for us to make independent decisions and judgments, the opportunity for us to stretch out ourselves and work through problems and to make connections and to sift through patterns and to work around obstacles and to overcome barriers. That mind that is placed in us is actually a God-given gift. But sometimes they feel like they're at odds and struggles. And I understand why. Because sometimes our minds are in places that they shouldn't be. Sometimes our minds are embattled and encumbered with certain burdens and barriers. Sometimes our minds have flat out exhausted themselves. But Solomon, he asked for wisdom. He asked for God to breathe a supernatural presence and inspiration to allow him to unlock a depth in his mind that would enable him to lead as a just king, as a thoughtful king, as a tactful and skilled king. Solomon understood the value in mining his mind. Yes, we can ask God for many different things. It seems like money is on everybody's mind and seems to be the source of all sorts of problems. It seems to be the source of all sorts of opportunity that we desire for ourselves. But more than the gold, the mind becomes valuable. Because when you have the mind, the gold is there. The technology is there. The innovation is there. You can pull those relationships together when you have the mind. You can pull teams of people to collaborate and work on your behalf in harmony and unity when you have the mind. You can pull strategy. You can pull economic opportunity. You can pull those things together when you have the mind. But the gold has a limitation. It has a defined value. Gold can run out. Gold can't work itself in the most shrewd and sophisticated and expeditious and expedient ways. Gold can't work itself in the most strategic ways. Gold has a limitation, but the mind God can use to do all sorts of things. When we yield and we truly surrender, when we realize that the potential we're able to tap into has its limits, and we go to God and we say, help me break through those barriers. Help me reach an untapped potential. Help me reach a deposit and grab a hold of those minerals that, because of the things that I'm dealing with and happened to me in the past, I can't get past a certain barrier of thinking. There's certain patterns, there's certain limitations that are connected to our histories that it's hard to reach past in our minds unless God breathes into us and liberates us and gives us that reconciliation and gives us that liberality, right? Unless God gives us that freedom, that opportunity to push through the pain and the hurt. If God doesn't do it, then we're limited. We need the opportunity to see what we're capable of. And unfortunately, we can't give ourselves that opportunity because there are certain realities that are so gargantuan. There are some realities that are so intimidating that we can't see beyond them. Have you ever been in the point where you were just so overwhelmed with the problem before you and you knew that wasn't necessarily a big thing, but it just consumed your attention and your focus to the point where you couldn't make the proper decisions for your next steps in your future? Fireworks are going off right now. We have to mind our minds. It was not only prudent for Solomon to ask God for wisdom because God granted it, but it was also prudent because God gave him much more. Because his heart wasn't fixated on just the superficial things that other people would have asked for in this blank check opportunity, God granted Solomon so much more. And the story is told about Solomon as a wise king, as a wealthy king, as a king who was unmatched and unrivaled in the things that he was able to do in his reign. But it was because Solomon mind his mind and he went to the source. He didn't just settle for the resources. I know we're dealing with a lot. I know the past can be a lot. There's answers that it seems like we'll never have. There's answers that seem like they would really free and liberate us to move on and to move forward. But when we mind our mind, when we go to God and ask God to be the head of our house, the head of our decision making, the head of our consciousness, God can work those things out. God can give you the opportunity to move forward even without the forgiveness that you feel like you deserve. I know the future is uncertain, but you deserve the opportunity to be excited and inspired about the prospects in your future and not intimidated by the expectations and the uncertainties. God can help you excavate and find new talents and new passions that present you with a new economic position. God can give you the sort of creativity that just blows your mind. He can give you the ability to see connections that somehow or another, with all your studying, with all your planning, and with all your education, seem to evade you. He can create those connections. He can bring forth the opportunity to build and forge relationships with people that you have no common background with, no common connection with. He can truly excavate your mind and lead you and guide you. But it takes for us to reach that humble position like Solomon did, and to ask for his presence, to ask for his leading, to ask to hear his voice when he calls and when he instructs, to ask for the revelation of his word, where we can see ourselves in it, where we can learn the lessons, where we can retain his principles and adopt his character. This is the week that I want you to focus on mining your mind. Let's spend some time in prayer. It's not about being in a place. It's not about choosing and selecting the right words. It's about in our hearts being ready and willing to hear from God. Prayer is more than just asking. Prayer is listening. Let's find that relationship with God through his word. Because I'll tell you, he's left his word, he's left this blueprint and this roadmap. He's left stories and parables and examples that can speak to us even today, but we need to spend time with it. It's more than just having a stopwatch and saying, that was 30 minutes, that was an hour reading. It's reading with purpose. It's reading with an open heart and an open mind. And I believe that if we mind our minds, we'll find ourselves like Solomon. Things don't have to be perfect. Our past doesn't have to be perfect. We don't have to make all the right choices in the present, and we certainly don't have to have the ability to predict the future. But when we mind our mind and we seek the depths and the revelation and the clarity that God can reveal to us, it doesn't matter if we get it all right. Because the truth of it is, it's in his hands. It's in his control. But he wants to see us be diligent. He wants us to be prudent. He wants to see us match that faith with those works. He wants to see us demonstrate that we are created in his image and in his likeness. He wants to see us overcome those challenges. He wants to see us reach beyond that breaking point. He wants to see us stretch where we create from minimal resources, where we create opportunity in the face of opposition. Because it makes God proud when he sees his creation succeed. It makes him proud to see us realize the potential within ourselves because he's a proud father. But we got to mind our mind. I hope that these few minutes were helpful to you. I hope that this helped you light up your week, light up your day. And I certainly look forward to future opportunities to share it with you. So follow this channel, follow this page. This Miracle Central Church is a phenomenal ministry. It's my parents' ministry in Iowa. It's a fantastic place and source for this kind of word and even more that will reach and touch you no matter what your background is, where you come from, where you live, or what you find yourself struggling with. Connect with this faith family. I'm excited about you. I'm excited about your future, and I'm excited to connect again. So until next time, light up.